And we continue at 2:06 in the afternoon on the John Phillips Show. Mr. Randy Wang's in Culver City.
John, you mentioned it earlier, and what do you know? We just found out that the city of Oakland has once again postponed the sale of the Coliseum to AASEG.
You got to be kidding me.
They were supposed to get the bulk of the money that was owed to the city by the end of the month of May this year. Now, the city of Oakland's not getting a dime until next spring.
Okay, so it's clear at this point that this group doesn't have the money.
Yes.
At what point do you have to just acknowledge reality and move on?
They're still saying it's going to happen, although I have to imagine by spring of 2026, the FBI will have laid down a few more indictments of everyone related to this.
You would think so.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Shang's going to sing any day now, people.
800-222-5222 is the telephone number, 1-800-222-5222. Well, one of President Trump's first acts regarding California was appointing a new U.S. attorney for the Central District of California. For that post, he chose former California Assemblyman, Bill Asaley. Bill Asaley is a Republican from the California legislature representing the Inland Empire, who was a critic of Gavin Newsom and of the excesses of the Democratic majority in Sacramento. He, of course, knows where all the bodies are buried because he was up there when the sausage was being made. Now, he's one of the top lawmen in the state, and Randy, he's not wasting any time.
Bill Asaley sat down with Fox 11's Alex Michelson to talk about, among other things, his multi-agency investigation into where all the damn homeless money went.
Good for him.
For more, here's Alex Michelson in Fox 11 Los Angeles.
Billions of dollars have been spent in L.A. County, yet the problem of homelessness...
Still got that cold, doesn't he?
It sounds like it.
Yet the problem of homelessness remains far from being solved. Now, a federal task force is investigating possible fraud and corruption. That task force is led by the brand new U.S. Attorney for the region, Bill Asaley. Welcome, U.S. Attorney Bill Asaley. We've had you on several times as Assembly Member, Bill Asaley. New job. Congratulations on the new gig.
Thank you. Happy to be here and happy to be in this new role.
So let's talk about this homelessness investigation. What have you found so far, and so what are you looking to do in the next few months and years?
How many pairs of handcuffs did you bring with you?
Can you imagine if he actually starts turning over stones, what he's going to find?
It's going to be pretty bad. And it's going to be in the city. It's going to be in the county. It's going to be in the state. It's going to be all over. No, there's a reason why Gavin kept vetoing an audit of the homeless spending in the state, because it's a grift that's been going on for decades.
He knew what was there. He didn't want it in the newspaper.
Yeah, this is an issue that's been not only on my radar, but I think everyone's radar. For the last few years, we've seen billions of dollars being invested into the homelessness crisis, and there's very little to show for it. When I was in Sacramento, we would ask for outcomes, and we got no answers.
And now he's a Fed, and he can find out those answers.
And then just this last month, as audit was conducted at the request of Judge Carter, and an accounting firm came in and looked at LAHSA and said there's $2 billion unaccounted for. Yeah. That doesn't happen. So we want to get to the bottom of where all the money went.
Let's not forget the money that the CEO of LAHSA, Dr. Valicia Adams-Kellum, wired to her husband's nonprofit from LAHSA's money.
That's a very good question.
So Judge Carter is the judge that sort of oversees the area, and he's been pushing for a lot of this homelessness stuff. LAHSA is the housing authority that the county has been using. Now there's a big push the city has been using, I should say. There's a push to sort of maybe change LAHSA because of that. So where do we go from here?
Yeah. So we're not prejudging anything. We're conducting an investigation from the bottom up. We're going to get all the bank records. We're going to look at all the transactions, and we're going to account for every dollar that was spent. And we've got FBI, IRS.
Think how deep this could go. They could be interviewing the current heads of some of these homeless nonprofits. They could be interviewing the former heads of some of these homeless nonprofits. If they interview Katie Hill, how many witnesses will she bring with her?
Well, and then because he's a Fed, you'd be talking about federal charges in front of federal judges and potentially federal prison, because he's going to be looking at things like wire fraud, bank fraud, those sorts of things, tax fraud, which means you're not going to be playing in the California sandbox where you control everything and it's home cooking. If the feds are in charge of the investigation, you lose control of all of those things.
And we've got FBI, IRS, Office of Inspector General of Housing and Urban Development, and I have my best prosecutors in the office that will be working on this. And the public deserves to know where their money went.
And I know you walked Skid Row with Judge Carter.
I did.
What was that conversation like?
That was an eye-opening experience. I mean, the level of need there was shocking. And also the lack of government services. I mean,
Wait, all we spend is money on quote-unquote services.
Yes, but you see, that's not going to fight the actual problem. That's going to the politically connected people that run those organizations.
There was shocking. And also the lack of government services. I mean, walking around there, the only people I saw providing any aid, medical or food, were private people with private donors.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah, you'll see Union Rescue Mission going around there. But the government contractors, they don't want to go to Skid Row.
One of the first people I'd talk to is the Reverend Andy Bales over at the Union Rescue Mission.
And the only government assistance I saw there was people handing out needles.
Here we go. Bill Asaley, thank you very, 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 very much. Let's look into the legality of this nonsense.
If he starts looking into that, Barbara Ferrer is going to be put in the spotlight.
Oh, boy. Did they make a pair of handcuffs that'll work for her?
It'd have to be maybe coming from Juvie.
Yeah.
And the only government assistance I saw there was people handing out needles and drug kits so that people could safely use drugs.
There has to be some federal law where the state and the county cannot be spending money on drug paraphernalia.
If there is, he'll find it.
It's shocking.
Well, speaking of that, the previous U.S. attorney put a lot of emphasis on fentanyl and dealing
Yes.
with that issue. Is that something that you see as a priority, and what are you going to do on that?
That is a priority to the administration. Obviously, a lot of the fentanyl is coming over the border, so that's part of our border policy, securing our border, going after China for sending the product to Mexico, and obviously the cartel for distributing it. But dealers in California should be on notice. If you deal
Watch out, MacArthur Park.
Boy, they really could clean up this entire state.
You could just take the U.S. Attorney's Office with a few agents and walk through MacArthur Park and the Tenderloin, and you might be able to put quite a few people away almost immediately. There's no good things that are happening in the Tenderloin and MacArthur Park.
No, and because the locals won't do that, if the feds can figure out an angle to make it a federal crime, then they can go in and do it.
But dealers in California should be on notice. If you deal fentanyl, we will prosecute you and charge you, and you'll go to federal prison, not state prison.
And if you're wondering if there's any connection between some of these nonprofits and the drug dealers, look at the building where Homeless Healthcare Los Angeles is on Skid Row. That's where the people go in and they get their kits that have the pipes, they have the foil, they have the spoons, and sitting right outside the door are drug dealers ready to sell the people fentanyl that now have a pipe to smoke it with.
It's almost as if they're encouraging people to do drugs.
What does this role mean to you, to have the confidence of President Trump to be doing this now?
Well, look, it's an incredible honor to be selected by the President and the Attorney General for this. This is the largest U.S. Attorney's Office in the country. We have over 300 lawyers. It's a tremendous responsibility.
And there's a lot of corruption.
Oh, yes, and my guess is he's going to find it.
But I think, with my background, having been a local and federal prosecutor and having been up in Sacramento, it's time to have that oversight, that level of check and balance on a state of California where, frankly, there has
So close.
Halfway there.
there hasn't been a lot of checks and balances in this state.
Well, speaking of, because you were just part of the super minority, right, in the assembly, where essentially Democrats could ignore you on everything. They didn't need your votes on anything.
They did.
Have a lot of those people now start to reach out to you because they need you? have you gotten a different...
I don't know if it's that they need him, but they're afraid of what he might find.
Oh, yes, because when you're in the extreme minority in Sacramento, they don't treat you very well, and they're pretty brazen with what they're doing with their power. Now that he is in charge of the Central District of California for the U.S. Attorney's Office, and he's the one in charge of prosecuting crime, they're all freaking out.
Sort of response now that you have a lot more power?
I got a lot of congratulations, but as you can imagine, this new role, I've sort of had to detach myself from the political world. So, yeah, I've gotten a lot of just congratulatory messages, but no, I probably won't engage in substantive conversations with them just to maintain my independence.
But speaking of that, though, I mean, you were, a real critic of Governor Newsom. Obviously, you're in a different sort of role now, but how do you see this job potentially as a way to keep him in check?
I mean, it'll keep him on his toes.
I would hope so.
Look, my job is not to keep the governor himself in check. My job is to follow the evidence where it goes. So we're going to look at state spending, like this homelessness, $24 billion spent over the last 5 years. We're just going to look at the accounts and see where the money goes. Public corruption will be a key issue. I know there's going to be another investigation.
Well, he's going to be spending a lot of time at L.A. City Hall then.
Well, at a certain point, I've said this before, finding corruption in a one-party state in California with the poor government that we receive is like calling a foul in the NBA or holding in the NFL. You can call it on every play. You just pick and choose when you blow the whistle. And what they're going to do is they're going to, the ones that get caught, they're going to say essentially what Shang said, which is, why are you picking on me? I was just doing what everyone else was doing. You're picking on me because of my sex, because of my religion, because of my race, because of my socioeconomic background, because of my politics, whatever. That's the argument. Because if you're just looking for public corruption, we know that that exists here. And we know that a lot of it exists here. And you're going to find it everywhere you look.
Well, and another interesting angle here is now that you have new federal oversight, you not only can look at certain corruption cases, but you can look at certain corruption cases that were shut down by Rob Bonta, like the investigation from the L.A. Sheriff's Department into Sheila Kuehl and her corruption.
Sort of, snowflake weepies.
Why did Bonta stop that one?
And you look at the details in that case, that was obvious corruption. I mean, you could call it with Braille, as Chick Hearn used to say. And they just said, nope, nothing to see here. We're moving on.
Public corruption will be a key issue. I know there's going to be another investigation into the high-speed rail.
Oh, boy.
You're going to find a lot there.
But we've created so many jobs.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not the governor per se, but it is a lot of the issues that he champions.
Biggest change for the office now with you in charge?
Biggest change to the office is that law and order's back. We're going to be filing cases. We will be aggressive but fair. And I think the biggest thing you'll see is a crackdown on immigration cases. Those are illegal aliens who've re-entered, committed crimes. We'll be very aggressive with them. There were no filings in the last few years under the prior administration. Zero.
Nobody?
It's just unreal how bad Joe Biden was on the border. He was entirely in favor of open borders. And the funny thing is Gloria Allred said this when she and I were debating on Alex Michelson's show. And I said that Biden was for open borders. And she said, no, he's not. And I said, Gloria, you're aware of the world around you. Every opportunity they had to ignore immigration law, they did. Yet for whatever reason, their position was, we're not going to enforce any immigration law, but we're not going to admit that we're open borders. And for their crowd, that was good enough.
Of 1326 cases, as of last week, we've had over 200 filings in my office. So that would probably...
He's only been there 2 weeks.
Keep it up.
That would probably be the biggest change. And more to come. We want to neutralize these sanctuary state policies. And
oh, boy.
That means he's going to go to war with the city of L.A., the city of San Francisco, the city of Oakland, San Diego, you name it.
Some of these cities are already preparing for how much more in the hole their budgets are going to be if they lose federal funding over this sanctuary stuff.
Oh, they're going to lose in court and they're going to lose federal funding. It's going to be a disaster for them.
And I think we have some plans to do that.
Well, you've always been great in talking with us before, and we're grateful that you're here now and hope we can continue that open dialogue.
Absolutely.
Congratulations on the new gig.
Oh, did you hear that?
We got one at the end.
Absolutely.
Congratulations on the new gig.
Thank you
so much. I'm not just saying that because I want something. All right.
Well, he wants interviews. Alex wants access. There you go. Bill Asaley, the new U.S. Attorney for the Central District in California, making a lot of waves early on, including going after all of that crooked homeless money.
And he is supposed to appear on this program. I think it's on Thursday.
So let's get the calendar correct, right? Today is Tuesday. Then we have Wednesday. Then it's Asaley Day.
Tuesday, Wednesday,
Asaley Day.
You are correct. If you'd like to email the show, you can do so at johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. That's johnnydon'tlikeshow@gmail.com. And Randy, with the end of the show quickly approaching, a little over a half hour away, if you want to continue listening to us after we sign off at 3, that's easy to do.
Let's say that you want to hear even more Ed Lascos Crime Blotter reports because they're the best thing in the world. Search for The John Phillips Show wherever you get your podcasts, whether that's the Apple Podcasts app.
Enough already.
It's iHeart.
You bet it's frustrating.
It's Spotify.
How crazy is that?
Search for The John Phillips Show. Hit subscribe. You can download all the episodes, including every time we feature the best in the business.
And it's on, like Donkey Kong.
Did you see this update on the death of actor Gene Hackman and his wife?
Oh, no. What happened now?
Okay, so I guess the story is that she died of some weird virus associated with rodents. And then after she died, he had severe Alzheimer's, and she was taking care of him. And she wasn't there to take care of him. And he was so far gone, he may or may not have even known that she died. He then dies, and then the dog, I guess, starves to death and dies at the same time.
Every aspect of the story is a bummer.
Okay, so apparently they just went through the house, and they said that his home was completely infested with rodents.
Well, that explains how the wife got the disease.
Yes. But how disgusting is that?
It's pretty awful.
That whole story, I was convinced that someone had them killed. How often do you have a husband and wife who just drop dead of natural causes at the exact same time?
The speculation was reckless. It turned out to just be incredibly sad and tragic.
With the dog dying too. But what are the odds of that? Where a couple and the dog just all drop dead at once?
It doesn't happen often.
But apparently it does happen. But how would you like to be a reporter on the scene trying to sell that story with a straight face? I didn't believe it, I have to admit. I thought that there was something else there. And Randy, it's time to reopen the California Crime Blotter.
If the cashier is dummy.
questions.
And this edition takes us to the Oakland DMV.
The Oakland DMV got shut down because someone stole all the copper wire.
Okay. Could you imagine being the first person to discover that at the Oakland DMV?
No real ID for you.
That deadline's coming up, isn't it?
Yes, it is. For more, here's KPIX.
An appointment at the DMV is hard enough, especially now with the Real ID deadline just around the corner. So imagine getting turned away when you get there. That's what...
You made an appointment. You woke up early. You probably couldn't sleep all last night because you know what a hassle the DMV is going to be. You get over there and someone stole all the wires, so there's no power, so they can't turn on the old computers.
I got my Real ID like 3 or 4 years ago. And I made an appointment, the first appointment of the day. I showed up and I knocked it out. And I knew if you waited until the very last minute, something could go wrong. And in Oakland, that's exactly what happened.
That's what happened to a lot of drivers in Oakland today. And here's a look at the reason why. Our chopper over the facility on 85th Avenue, where thieves got onto the roof and ripped copper right out of the HVAC system.
Oh, my. No AC at a DMV? That's going to be one pungent smell.
I'm sure it's a pleasant place.
And it all caused flooding inside the building with water pooling on the floors.
So now the building's completely destroyed. This isn't just they don't have power. These are the kind of things that happen when you let the people steal all the infrastructure.
Your DMV looks like the lost city of Atlantis.
Our Kara St. Cyr spoke with frustrated drivers who now have to make some other arrangements.
People that needed services at the Oakland Coliseum DMV were shocked.
Of course it's the one at the Coliseum.
I wonder if Shang tried to sell that too.
Absolutely, absolutely. People that needed services at the Oakland Coliseum DMV were shocked this morning when they pulled up and saw the entire building blocked off.
Carl Williams is one of several people who showed up to the DMV only to get turned away. He doesn't have a backup plan to get his car registered.
My car is grounded. Can't go anywhere until I pay this $14 fee. And I come here to pay it, and DMV is closed.
Williams says,
you know, in Oakland, they don't seem to be able to do anything about people crashing into chevrons. I don't know if they're going to go after you for an expired registration these days.
No, and I would recommend to this guy to just join the auto club at this point.
Williams says he's been back and forth with the DMV to avoid getting his car towed, but it looks like things won't get resolved today for him or anyone else needing the DMV.
Thieves scaled the Oakland Coliseum DMV overnight, stealing copper piping from the HVAC system, triggering leaks and flooding throughout the building.
This is crazy.
Video.
Oakland legitimately has the best men on the street.
They don't really have a boring one.
I said, hell no, baby boy. Let me get up on out of here.
Oakland, I love you, but you don't love me.
This is crazy.
Video from inside shows water spilling from the ceiling and pooling in the lobby. Workers locked the fence around the building to keep onlookers out as they scramble to contain the flood. Ken Houston, the city council member for this district, says an unhoused person from the encampments nearby is likely responsible for the theft.
You don't say.
Surprising. All the encampments that you refuse to bust up bring crime with them.
It's not a crime to be homeless, but it's a crime to commit crimes while you're homeless.
So are we going to break up that encampment?
Of course not.
Right? There's enough services to not do things like this.
Oakland PD has not confirmed this or released any information related to the crime, but Houston says the theft represents the city's failure to police.
They stole it from out of Planned Parenthood. It's a thing that people
can't even get abortions in Oakland.
Well, they can get an abortion in Oakland. It just has to be in the dark.
They stole it from out of Planned Parenthood. It's a thing that people are stealing copper pipe. They're stealing it under houses now, right? And that's unacceptable.
The running price for stolen copper is about $2 to $6 a pound, a sharp contrast to the thousands of dollars of damages it causes, and the inconvenience for DMV customers. Locations are busier than normal as people rush to get their real ID ahead of the May 7th deadline.
Better go to Piedmont.
Imagine working there and every paper on your desk, every file in a file cabinet is now totally ruined with the water.
So what I feel like crazy, I have to come back to work at 12, and now I have to go to the other DMV.
I took off today, and I want to get a real ID because we have a short time.
As for Carl,
baby, global entry. You'll be fine.
By the way, with those two men on the streets there, you could hear their jewelry clicking and clacking as they were speaking, couldn't you?
Maybe.
And now I have to go to the other DMV.
Oh, yeah.
And now I have to go to the other DMV.
That's a bangle, all right.
And now I have to go to the other DMV.
I took off today, and I want to get a real ID because we have a short time.
As for Carl, he's thinking of a
plan.
plan.
That first woman sounded like she was Mrs. Roper from Three's Company with all the costume jewelry.
So what I feel like crazy, I have to come back to work at 12, and now I have to go to the other DMV.
I took off today, and I want to get a real ID because we have a short time.
As for Carl, he's thinking of a plan B.
So it looks like I'm going to have to go to Pittsburgh, visit my brother, and go to DMV in Pittsburgh.
It's unclear.
Pittsburgh, California, not Pittsburgh, PA.
Pittsburgh without the H at the end.
It's unclear when this building will reopen, but at this time, workers are redirecting people to other locations.
And this is what we see. The destruction of copper wire and copper pipe theft costs so much money, and we don't seem to have any clear answer as to what to do about it, even though it's fairly obvious that unlike, when you steal a laptop from a private school in Sacramento, you go take that to the Tenderloin. You go take that to Market Street or to MacArthur Park in L.A., and you sell it right there on the street. The only way you sell the stolen copper is through a recycling center like, I don't know, California Waste Solutions.
And the city has an opportunity to do something about this. They know who did it, but have there been any arrests made? Have they busted up the homeless encampment? Of course not. If you're willing to tolerate crime, guess what? You get more of it.
That's the latest out of Oakland at a flooded DMV.
It's wild, wild west out here.
It's a lot of crime now.
And Randy, it's time to reopen the California Crime Blotter.
If the cashier is dummy.
Questions?
And this edition takes us to the frozen food section.
At a Walgreens in San Francisco, a reporter at KGO happened to stumble upon some shoplifting.
You don't say.
For more, here's ABC 7 in the Bay Area.
New at 11 tonight. In recent weeks, San Francisco police have touted lower crime numbers this year. That's not to say, though, there aren't still challenges. Last Friday around 7 p.m., I was buying a frozen pizza, among other things, at a San Francisco Walgreens.
Wait, what's going on in this guy's life?
How much money do you think he's making as a local news anchor in San Francisco?
You got to be doing pretty well. I mean, that's an expensive city.
$300,000 a year, $400,000 a year, somewhere in there.
On a Friday night, I mean, maybe he's taking it back to the office, but frozen pizza at a Walgreens on a Friday night sounds real depressing.
And that's a city with great food options.
How do you go to the Walgreens to get a frozen DiGiorno for one when you've got North Beach in your backyard with some of the best Italian restaurants in the entire country?
No kidding.
Go to Tony's Pizza Napolitana. What the hell's wrong with this guy? Okay, that's not the real important part of the story, but I'm having a real hard time understanding how you get to a Walgreens on a Friday night to buy a frozen pizza.
That says single and staying that way.
That's not to say, though, there aren't still challenges. Last Friday around 7 p.m., I was buying a frozen pizza, among other things, at a San Francisco Walgreens, and suddenly heard quite...
Was he getting a 2-liter of Pepsi just for himself?
Probably.
And suddenly heard quite the commotion.
Hey, come on, get out of here, man.
3 males ransacking the makeup section of a Walgreens store at First and Mission Street this past Friday night in San Francisco.
They're stealing the makeup at the Walgreens?
What, are they performing at drag brunch the next day or 2 days from now?
No, let's go to Market Street.
In the video that I recorded as I was shopping there, you can see the individuals fill up bags and backpacks, then run out of the store untouched by what appears to be security taking video. It's unclear if that...
Well, after that one Walgreens employee stabbed the other shoplifter in the eye, they're probably tightening the leash on employees doing anything about this.
Oh, and given the politics of San Francisco, all of the sympathy was for the shoplifter.
It's unclear if that man was working as a security guard or if he was just in the Walgreens. This Walgreens store is one of just a few remaining locations in San Francisco's financial district. Back in January of this year, Walgreens announced the closure of 12 other stores in San Francisco. In a statement at the time...
Boy, this guy's having less and less places to get his frozen pizza for one.
Yeah, no kidding. He's going to have to start going to North Beach after all.
In a statement at the time, Walgreens said that it is never an easy decision to close a store and that closures are from increased regulatory and reimbursement pressures that are hurting their ability to cover the costs associated with rent.
Sure.
It's funny how among the big corporations that have been forced to close any number of locations, The only one who's willing to straight up say it's because of crime is In-N-Out. You notice all of the others talk about all of these other issues that have nothing to do with anything, but In-N-Out was just very honest and said, yeah, it's crime.
Staffing, and supply needs. The theft seen in this video comes at a time when San Francisco police have recently pointed to year-over-year lower crime numbers in all areas, including larceny thefts like this. Employees at this store, though, mentioned to me that this is nothing new.
They see this every day.
At a certain point, you just become numb to it.
I didn't see officers at the store during or after this theft, but online data shows...
I wonder how long he stayed, because that pizza's not going to stay frozen for long.
Well, and also, this is part of the reason that the crime is down in San Francisco. If the Walgreens didn't call the cops, there's no record of this crime ever occurring.
Now, this time they called the cops, but that very well could be because the reporter from ABC7 witnessed the crime.
Oh, that is 100% the reason.
But online data shows it was reported a short time later, and the loss was more than $950.
Oh, my goodness.
Okay, so in theory, they can go to jail.
We have reached...
Well, yes, in theory. But let's remember how San Francisco works. You have a police chief that has been empowered to do his job. We're thankful for that. The police department has new technology. They're able to make more arrests. That's great. They have a district attorney who wants to enforce the law. Brooke Jenkins does a great job. All of this sounds great, right? The only problem is, once you get through all of that, you hand the case over to judges who think everyone's a victim and we need to slap them on the wrist.
Well, and where was it that we heard that the juries in San Francisco are a problem too? Where if they decide to take it to trial, it's very difficult to win a conviction against virtually anyone. And the defendants don't even really protest their guilt or innocence. What they do is they essentially say that they're the victim of being picked on for one reason or another.
Oh, what it specifically was Brooke Jenkins, the district attorney of San Francisco, trying to prosecute fentanyl dealers, specifically Honduran fentanyl dealers in the country illegally. And they all would take the stand and say, I'm a victim of human trafficking. And
That's
the juries were letting them off.
Because they didn't want them to get deported.
As tough as we want to be on fentanyl, if you don't go after the drug dealers, nothing's going to happen.
We have reached out to Walgreens to see if any additional measures have been put into place at this store in addition to locking up items, but have not heard back. Certainly an unsettling feeling when you see that happen in person.
Now, there's still some unanswered questions about this story. What frozen pizza did he get at Walgreens? Was it Celeste Pizza for one? Was it DiGiorno? Or was it Red Baron?
I can't even remember the last time I've eaten a frozen pizza.
There's so much good pizza all around. And as far as I have seen, it's not like the frozen pizza is necessarily cheap. And let's not forget, Walgreens is where they lock up the frozen pizza with chains. So did he have to go to the employee to unlock the frozen pizza?
It's so much easier to get good pizza.
I know it's not the most important part of the story, but I'm having a really hard time understanding why this very successful anchor at ABC7 in the Bay Area is committing his Friday night to frozen pizza at the Walgreens where people are stealing makeup.
Okay, what if the story is actually that he was there to get something embarrassing, but he didn't want to acknowledge that he was there for something he would rather not admit to on camera, so he had to come up with some acceptable alternative?
He does say in the story, among other things. So you might be right. This might be a total cover. The frozen pizza was just so he knew that when he checked out after he witnessed, and this was going to be a story, he didn't say, I was at the Walgreens to buy condoms.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd admit to that at work on camera. I'd come up with something else.
That at this point makes more sense than the frozen pizza.
Well, it's like that whole story with Dan Rather that made no sense. Remember that one?
Remind me.
He was in the park in the middle of the night or something, and he said he was just going for a walk, and someone beat him up and said, "What's the frequency, Kenneth?"
That's right.
And it was never fully explained what he was doing out in the middle of the night.
Well, I think we cracked this conspiracy, Johnny.
All right. Well, enjoy your Friday night there, buddy. Stay safe. Don't do anything I would do.